Good morning, everyone. Welcome. My name is Menachem Creditor. It's my honor to serve as scholar in residence and rabbi for UJA Federation of New York. We bring you Torah and music, blessing, and community every weekday. We've been doing so since March 18th, 2020. Today it is Wednesday, October 9th, 2024. That's more than 4.5 years of Torah every single day, of finding each other, every single day, of saying good morning to each other every single day. And what a blessing it's been to be part of this community for 4.5 years of Torah every single day, of singing, of learning. It's broadcast 1153. I cannot say how grateful I have been to have this anchor in the world, in time, in my life, to have all of you, and to learn together every single day. It's broadcast 1153. Thank you, Penny. And it is day 369 since October 7th. It's more than a year. And so, in all the ways that we count time, and especially these days between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, I encourage us to make every day count. Let's start by saying good morning to each other. It's good to see you, Louise and Kim. It's lovely to see you. Sean and Bensi, Boker Tov. Hi, Lisa. Richard and Linda, Rosa, Deborah and Linda, Arlene and Jack. Stanley, good to see you, my friend. Natalia and Lydia, Cassandra and Stacy, Minna, Barbara. There's a lot of people for me to say good morning to. That's the right way to start the day. Linda and Judy, good to see you. Natalie and Deborah, Fabrice, Cecile, Cynthia, good to see you. Hi, Barbara. Hi, Mark. Nice to see you too. Janice and Susan, Linda and Anya, Lydia and Cheryl, Boker Tov. I'll say hi to a few more people. Rebecca, lovely to see you. A long time ago, we were at a wedding, and I've been appreciating your music ever since you introduced me to it. Thank you. Louise, it's good to see you. It's good to see you and Bobby before. Anna and Mindy, Boker Tov. Judy, Amy, Chana, Haley, Debbie. Mindy, it's your 25th anniversary. Mazal Tov. Peter, sending love. Iris and Ellen, Barry. Good morning, friends. All right, I'm sorry. Screen is so jumpy. So many people are jumping on. Let's take a breath, sing a blessing, learn some Torah. לעסוק בדברי תורה, לעסוק בדברי תורה, הפוך בה והפוך בה, לעסוק בדברי תורה. תדיה לי 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 תדיה לי לי All right, friends. There are a million places to begin, but let's start with Linda praying for your husband's surgery. It should go well. You should be safe. He should heal well. The surgeon's hands should be guided, and you should feel strong and supported, as should he. Those of us who are in the path of what seems to be an impending catastrophic hurricane, we're praying for your safety. Please listen to your local officials. To all of us, please pay attention to all the ways in which we'll be able to help. I am sure that your local Jewish Federation will be giving good guidance, but please, most of all, listen to instructions from local authorities and pay attention to the federal government's responses via FEMA. Stay safe, friends. Follow the instructions. Please, God, will get through this safely. And to share something deeply positive in a different way, today is my wife's birthday. And so, if I could ask a favor, just wish the amazing, wise, precious soul that we know as Neshama Karlibach, wish her a happy birthday. She is the reason that I feel so strong, and she is the reason that I am as happy as I am. And it's complicated to have a birthday. First of all, for us both to have birthdays right after October 7th, but it is important to celebrate. So join me in wishing my amazing life partner, my forthcoming rabbi since she started rabbinical school, and my best friend in the world, a happy birthday. Now, here's what I want to do. I want to learn some Torah, and this week, since Yom Kippur is the Shabbat, I thought we could focus for a moment on one of the central moments of Yom Kippur. It is a fascinating moment. A lot of people, depending on the shul, the synagogue, are already not in the sanctuary, but it's the most important part of services. It's the avodah, the service. And it is the service that the high priest, the Kohen Gadol, would offer only one day a year. So the holiest person on the holiest day goes to the holiest place called the Kodesh Kodeshim, the Holy of Holies. And on this day, the high priest would offer a very specific service. If you're looking for a beautiful, interpretive, musical version of the Avodah, the Israeli artist Yishai Ribo has one of the most beautiful, powerful renditions of it, interpretations of it I've ever heard. Part of me just wishes that that's what we would do for Yom Kippur. We would just sit and soak in the majesty of his interpretation of that ancient rite. It was a series of intricate sacrifices after a series of intricate immersions and specific clothing being worn. But it's not clear exactly what he said. And that was a great debate already thousands of years later in the Talmud. So it's not just we who have wondered what was said in the Holy of Holies by the high priest on Yom Kippur. The way the Avodah itself, the way that the liturgy that we have depicts it, he went into the Holy of Holies, offered the sacrifices, and then uttered the ineffable, which makes no sense. You can't say the unsayable, which is where the debate comes from in the context here, by the way. Speaking of going into the most tremulous, vulnerable of places, Cheryl, blessing your second grandchild who is in the NICU getting used to the world. May she breathe beautiful air, and may you hear her laughter, holding her close to you. The high priest would, in this tender moment, where all of our energy was focused on him, but we couldn't be there. In fact, so dangerous was the moment. If he didn't get it right, we were afraid he would die. The tradition says he had a crimson thread tied around his waist, so that if, God forbid, he were to die, and we could not go in to retrieve him, we could pull him out. But what did he say? At this moment, if you're in shul this Yom Kippur, and I hope you will be, we fall to the floor. It's one of the most important physical actions on the Jewish calendar, which is submission, to give in, to say, I know sometimes it's just too much. So I offer myself. I'm here. Hineni. What did the Kohen Gadol say? Here's the debate in the Talmud. Rav Matna says that the Kohen Gadol said the ineffable name, Shem HaMeforash. But others said, no, what he said was the phrase Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor V'Hanorah. And you might know these words because we say them whenever we daven the Amidah, the central prayer in Jewish tradition. Ha'el, the God, Hagadol, the great, Hagibor, the mighty, the Hanorah, and the awesome, or awful, actually. And then they have a conversation which you would not believe. If you didn't see it in the Talmud, you would not believe this is there. Moses is the first in recorded text to say Ha'el, Hagadol, Hagibor, V'Hanorah. All of those attributes of God. But then the Gemara says, Moses said that, but then Daniel and Jeremiah had different experiences, and they said different versions of this. Ha'el, Hagibor, V'Hanorah, not Gadol. And the others said, Ha'el, Hagadol, skipped Gibor and Norah. And the rabbis of the Talmud say, how is it possible that they said something different? Once the past establishes a language for prayer, how dare a later generation change it? And they say, in the Talmud, in this conversation, which is unbelievable, that Daniel and Jeremiah saw the Jewish people hurt. And they said, where is God's might? I'm not going to call God mighty. They saw people exiled and the temple destroyed. Where is God's greatness? I will not call God by that name either. And then the rabbis make a strange move. They say, but the Anshe Knesset Hagdolah, those who really framed the Siddur, the prayer book, the way that we have it, said, you just don't understand. They spoke to the past. You just don't understand. God's might is God's restraint. God's greatness is that God is patient. The very things that we pray for on Yom Kippur. And therefore, we have to include those ideas that God is mighty. It's not a warrior kind of might. It's a restrained kind of might. It's not greatness in an overpowering way. It's greatness when it comes to being patient and holding rage and reactivity back. And then the Gemara asks the most radical of things. How could later generations change the prayers established by an earlier generation? It's a conversation that many of us in living communities have today. And the Gemara 2,000 years ago says something that I believe we need to think about, which is, Sheyad'u, they knew, by Elohim, about God, she'amitihu, that God is truthful. Lefichach lo chizbu bo, therefore they would not lie to God. Now, this Yom Kippur is in the midst of tumultuous times. Politically here in the United States, there's a lot at stake. I hope that you will all make sure to vote. Early voting begins in some places right now. Don't shirk that responsibility. That's a Jewish mandate to engage civically. Because the world is in its vulnerable place pretty frequently, not just on Yom Kippur. But Yom Kippur's language helps us remember what it is to act with responsibility for the community, just as the high priest did. But one of the other reasons that I find this Gemara text to be so pivotal, so important, is because here we are in a vulnerable world where our experience of the universe might shift the way that we relate to God. And I'll just be very personal about this. I help lead services for a community in South Orange, New Jersey, every Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. And we follow a pretty traditional outline using the Machzah, the High Holiday prayer book. And we did again this year. But there are pages that made me weep in ways that I had not before. And there were pages that I bellowed at heaven through. It was the same words on the page, similar to that phrase that Moses originally said, Ha'el, Hagadol, Hagibor, V'Hanorah. I didn't act the way Jeremiah and Daniel did, changing the language. but I acted the way the Anshe Knesset Hagdolah, that group that formed our traditional prayers, did, which is I re-understood the words. When we say, God, you are Zocher Habrit, the one who remembers the covenant, what I've been feeling more this year than ever before is we are the ones reminding God to remember. By naming God in certain ways, we are saying, hey, God, parent, guardian, where have you been? We could use some more of that. Now, I know that sounds blasphemous, but it is so important, just as Rosa is saying. We are not the same, and that is why the words are always new. That is well said, my friend. We are called, even in the most traditional of spaces where the explicit language of prayer might be as it's been, to remember that we are not the same as we have been. How important it is for us to know that we have a voice in this divine conversation. We are not passive. We are not recipients alone. Yes, there are moments of deep, deep humility, and it is appropriate as mortal human beings and as a community to remember what we are and what we aren't, and where we do our own work, yes, Mindy, of tshuva, of trying to be our better selves, so too does God. There are wonderful, intense stories about this. I might share one tomorrow, where God's vulnerability is on display in the moment where prayer is most needed. Another way of saying this, friends, is where are you right now? Honestly, where are you? How's your heart? This world is not gentle. It is never gentle. It is specifically not gentle to Am Yisrael, to the Jewish people, to Medinat Yisrael, to the state of people, and to people. So where are you? How are you? How can you take good care of you today? How can you take care of someone else today? It is the best thing we can do. And part of the way we do that is remembering that there is worth in our emotional truths. That prayers can be a channel for speaking, screaming, weeping, loving your truth. The word God, the name God, can be very complicated. For some people, it is a ravaged word. And for some people, they go through their prayer life in an unquestioning way. It's not a moment to judge anyone's prayer life. I never would. It's never the right time to do that. But I would suggest, I would invite, I would encourage us in these days leading up to Yom Kippur, and we only have 2.5 days before it begins, to do some good cheshbon nefesh, good internal soul accounting, and to know that that is not an act of rebellion. That is an act of human sacred agency. Where are you right now? How are you right now? Let that out through prayer. We are created in the image of God, and that must mean that God's got some work to do too. So let's decide that we're going to do it. Let's model for God what the world could look like. And if we build this world from love, then maybe God will build this world from love too. So, with me, friends, on this 369th day since October 7th, with 101 of our family members from many nations still held hostage, join with me in using some of that prayer with any emotion that you bring to it to call out to them. Sing, pray, and let's do it together. Kol hoz balevav pnima nefesh Yehudi homia ulfatei mizrach kadima Ayin Letzion Sophia. Od lo avda tikvateinu, hatikva bat shnot alpayim, liot am chofshi be'artzeinu, Eretz Zion v'Yerushalayim, liot am chofshi be'artzeinu, Eretz Zion v'Yerushalayim. Bring them home now. Am Yisrael Chai. See you tomorrow, friends. Morning.